What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome to week 10 of Tracking Trends in Fantasy Football. Today we're going to be going through player performances through the first 9 weeks of the season to find out who is trending in the right and wrong direction. We're looking for those players in fantasy football with the most consistent hit or miss rates. Now, just like we always do in today's show, we're going to be going through the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. And on the screen, you're going to be able to see each player's hit rates as well as their average fantasy points per game through the first 9 weeks of the season. By showing you those numbers, you're going to be able to determine whether these players are a little bit more boom or bust or a lot more consistent. Now, speaking of consistency, you hear me talking about NFL player pick'ems all the time. We have a lot of fun doing that around here, and we've had a ton of success, but the NFL is getting damn crazy weekly. So I also dabble in NBA picks as well, and you better believe when football ends, it's going to give us something else to talk about. I have actually cashed 17 NBA tickets over the last week alone. Your boy knows ball. But obviously we aren't going to talk about NBA picks right here on this channel, but if you're interested, you need to get signed up on Underdog and then check out NextPlay. All you gotta do is head over to Underdog Fantasy or download the app, create a new account using the referral code Headliners, make your initial minimum deposit, play in a $5 contest. They're going to give you $100 in bonus funds for free, just added to your account. You can play with house money for the next month or so. But then you can also join NextPlay. They provide picks to all the different platforms for less than a fast food meal each and every month. And I'll be posting my picks on there as well. So come hang out with us and have some fun. There's links to Underdog and NextPlay down below in the description. But all right, let's go ahead and dive in and see how things are looking through the first 9 weeks of the NFL season. And let's just start off by saying weird crap keeps happening. I don't know, I doubt it's just me because I see it all over the place on social media. Nothing makes sense right now between injuries, bye weeks, studs who just can't get going or be consistent. Everything, it just annoys the crap out of you right now in the NFL. But let's go ahead and start off at the quarterback position. Once again, just to reiterate, in order to be considered a hit at the quarterback position, the cutoff is 18 fantasy points. If you score over 18, it's a hit. If you're under, it's a miss. And let's start off with the hot quarterbacks first. Jacoby Brissett, I put him at the top of the list. Let's give this guy some respect. Obviously, he's gone over 18 fantasy points in each one of his 3 starts. However, we don't even know if he's going to have a job yet going forward, but give the guy some respect. 22 fantasy points per game. He's scorching hot right now. Then we expect guys like Jalen Hurts to be up here. Jackson Dart, not a lot of weapons, still out there performing. Then we got Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, guys we expect to stay hot. And then Justin Herbert, who is on fire as of right now after a 3-week stretch between weeks 3 and 5, where he scored less than 18 fantasy points in each game. Dude is like literally like Goku right now, going Super Saiyan or whatever the hell it's called, because he is the quarterback 2 overall on the season, and he has scored 26 plus fantasy points now in 3 straight ball games. Drake May continues to be hot. How about Dak Prescott? Kind of trending down as of right now. It's really hard to believe that a team that has weapons like CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, and paired with a defense that is as bad as what it is in Dallas, that Dak ever scores less than 18 fantasy points. However, he now has in back-to-back games. I'm not hitting the panic button, but he's definitely not trending the right direction. JJ McCarthy hasn't had a whole lot of starts. Can he stay hot? Hot is kind of, he's verge hot right now, right? He's warming up. He's not exactly hot. Then we get to Matthew Stafford, who is on fire and trending up as of right now. This Rams offense has turned into a team that will throw it on the goal line. In years past, they would just turn around and hand it to Kyren Williams. Now they're throwing touchdowns down there, and boy, is it helping out Matthew Stafford, who has had 25 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games played and is currently up inside the top 10 quarterbacks on the season. Now, after him, we got guys like Caleb Williams and Baker Mayfield. I know a ton of people hate Caleb Williams, but when it comes to fantasy points, dude's averaging almost 20 fantasy points per game. Now, for Baker, hopefully he can get some healthier weapons the second half of the season, and he can kind of climb back up this list because he's been cooling off here as of late. All right, now let's move down to the mid quarterbacks. We got Justin Fields, the epitome of boom or bust. He's either going to score you 25 fantasy points or score you less than 5 fantasy points. It's impossible impossible to figure out, and really, it's one of those risks that you take every time you put him in your lineup. Then Bo Nix, he is trending up as of right now, in my opinion. He was pretty hit or miss to start the season, but as of late, they're having to throw the ball a lot more to win ball games. 3 straight games for Bo Nix over 19 fantasy points, and now he's all the way up to quarterback 5 overall on the season. Daniel Jones kind of cooled off a little bit here, but still super solid. Trevor Lawrence, how about Joe Flacco? He has to be trending up. And who even needs AC joints at this point? The Joe Flacco resurgence is a shock. It needs to be studied, because since he's joined Cincinnati, he is the quarterback 2 overall in fantasy football and has not scored less than 19 fantasy points in a game. Then we get Mac Jones and Michael Penix here to round out that midsection. But now let's go down to the cold section for quarterbacks. Jordan Love really isn't overly needed by his offense. He's not playing bad by any means. He's just not out there scoring a ton of fantasy points. Then Sam Darnold, also trending up in my opinion. Darnold has been one of the most consistent floor play quarterbacks of the entire season. He scored at least 16 fantasy points in 6 of his 8 games this year, but now we're starting to see those numbers climb just a little bit. He's had at least 20 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games played. The running game in Seattle is an absolute mess, and Torrey Horton is starting to get hot in the receiving game. Sam Darnold's numbers could continue to climb and boost him up this list. The other cold quarterbacks, Jared Goff, obviously he can get hot in a moment's notice, but that running game soaks up a lot of the scoring. CJ Stroud dealing with a concussion here this week. Geno Smith hasn't been great this season in Las Vegas. Tua, we got 60 minutes for 4 hours of pain. That's all I'm going to say. And then we got Marcus Mariota, Aaron Rodgers, Bryce Young, Cam Ward, and Dylan Gabriel. Not a lot of surprises here at the bottom of the list. But let's go ahead and head over to the running backs now and talk about the guys who are currently hot. Now, just a reminder, it's 10 fantasy points for the cutoff for running backs. Below is a miss, above is a hit. At the top of the list is Devon Achane and Bucky Irving. Now, I know Bucky hasn't played in a while, but damn it, I need something to look forward to. We need some type of positive news in fantasy football, and he scored at least 10 fantasy points in every game he's played this season. A little bit more impressive for Devon Achane since he's been out there the entire season, but still. Then we have the usual suspects, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Josh Jacobs, all at 88% hit rate, all averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. I will say, the one miss that Josh Jacobs has, he had 9.9 fantasy points, so dude on the verge of a 100 spot. Now after that, more guys that we kind of expect to be here. Not really anything crazy when it comes to hot running backs. We got James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Swift has been hot. Hopefully he can come back and get healthy second half of the season. Jaylen Warren remains hot despite Arthur Smith. I guess that's something to note right there. Javonte Williams wasn't great Monday Night Football, but is still playing overall solid. J.K. Dobbins is definitely trending down in my opinion. His volume, it's not taking a hit. He's just stopped scoring touchdowns. He has no touchdowns in 4 straight games, and over that span, they've all gone to R.J. Harvey, who has 5 of them. Is this a changing of the guard? No, not really. If you look at the overall splits in the backfield, nothing has changed. Harvey has just been the beneficiary of the touchdowns here as of late. Then we got Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry. Hopefully he can make a run here late in the season. Travis Etienne and Quinshawn Judkins coming off the bye. Hopefully he is healthy and can pick up where he left off. All right, now we go down to that midsection. The first one is Rico Dowdle. He's averaging 13.8 fantasy points per game with a hit rate of only 55%. But why is it so low? Remember, this is season long. He has absolutely exploded the last 5 weeks. Not only has he taken the job away from Chuba Hubbard, but here's what's crazy. He is 3rd in the NFL right now in total rushing yards, trailing only Jonathan Taylor and James Cook. He's the running back 9 overall on the season in fantasy, and he's only been a starter for 5 weeks. If that's not the definition of trending up, I don't know what is. Then we got Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Kamani Vidal. Really boom or bust, right? Every other game he seems to produce. Every other game he seems to have a ton of truthers in the comment section. The other weeks we never hear from him. Then we got Aaron Jones. Does he play through the AC joint sprain there as well? And then lastly, Zach Charbonnet here to round out the midsection, but we got a lot of guys down in the cold section. How about Chase Brown? You have to think he's trending up. He was falling fast before Joe Flacco arrived. People were trying to figure out what the hell to do with Chase Brown. Now all of a sudden he's had at least 11 fantasy points in 3 straight games, and he's rising back up into fantasy relevancy. How about Kareem Hunt? He's trending up as well. The Chiefs were already committed to Hunt, but now with the injury to Isaiah Pacheco, we may see more touchdown opportunities going the way of Kareem Hunt the rest of the season. Kenneth Walker remains cold. Rachaad White, you have to think he may be trending down if Bucky returns. And then Jordan Mason, he is definitely trending down. Aaron Jones returned off the IR, and the same day, Jordan Mason was forgot about in Minnesota. Now, Jones is hurt again. Does he play through the injury? Because honestly, if he's out there on the field, Jordan Mason seems like an afterthought in Minnesota. Ramondre Stevenson not 100% healthy. How about Woody Marks? He's probably trending down as well. He's seen his volume increase, which is great, but he's not doing hardly anything with it. He has gone over 35 yards only one time in the last 4 games he's played. Then RJ Harvey, he has to be trending up. His volume hasn't increased, but the quality of touches has. Like I said earlier, he has 5 touchdowns over the last 3 weeks. And if we're being honest with each other here, which I hope we are, he looks way better than J.K. Dobbins does. And that in no way is disrespect to J.K. Dobbins. RJ Harvey just looks like he moves on a different level. Now, after that, we got Alvin Kamara, who's been ice cold. Chuba lost his job, so you know he's not going the right direction. Nick Chubb in Houston hasn't done much here as of late, with him and Woody Marks splitting. And then we get Kyle Monangai of the Chicago Bears. He is definitely trending up, and I don't care who you are, you have to be trending in the right direction if you get almost 200 total yards in a game. We know that DeAndre Swift is less than 100% healthy, and Monangai has 15 plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. If nothing else, he's at least earned a little bit more of a role in this offense, even with a healthy DeAndre Swift. Then Travion Henderson, he continues to be hated in New England for whatever reason. Tony Pollard has been ice cold. Ja'Cory Merritt, maybe droppable at this point. And then Tyrone Tracy trying to work his way up from the basement as the lead back in New York, but he's got to worry about Devin Dingleberry there for the Giants. So really a mess in that backfield as well right now. But let's go ahead and move on to wide receivers now. We'll start off in the hot category. Once again, the cutoff 10 fantasy points. Above is a hit, below is a miss. At the top, 3 guys with 100% hit rates. It's Rashee Rice, it's JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and it's CeeDee Lamb. I'm not going to punish Lamb for barely playing in a game where he got hurt. The dude produces out there for the Dallas Cowboys, and it doesn't matter. He's going to be starting for everyone anyway. Then we got George Pickens, who's been hot. Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua. No surprise with those guys. But Jordan Addison here, averaging 12.2 fantasy points per game with an 80% hit rate, is trending down. And it's not just because J.J. McCarthy isn't going to give him chances. It's more so the fact that J.J. is going to spread the ball around a little bit more, which is going to make Jordan Addison less consistent, right? He may move down this list, kind of hover between hot and mid remainder of the year. Then Michael Pittman, he is definitely trending up. 9+ targets now in 3 straight games. Touchdowns in all but 3 games this season. He plays in one of the best offenses in football, and he just had his first 100-yard game of the season. Amon-Ra St. Brown up here in the hot category with Devontae Adams. No shock there. Quentin Johnston, probably trending down at this point. It's really starting to look like the old QJ here as of late. Really boom or bust production. 11 targets in the last 3 games is going to make him super touchdown dependent. The problem is there's a lot of guys that can catch touchdowns in LA. He's not out there by himself. Jalen Waddle remains hot-ish in that Miami offense, if you want to call anything in that Miami offense hot. Then Garrett Wilson, maybe he can get healthy here second half of the season and make a run. Jamar Chase, we know, has been hot here as of late. He's working his way back up. Emeka Egbuka, can he take that step forward second half of the season? He started off hot, and he started to dwindle down the stretch there before the bye. Hopefully he got healthy over the bye and can start trending back up. Roma Dunze here, he's trending down, but obviously this has to do more production-wise. We can't ignore the fact, though, that there's a couple dropped touchdowns and a couple big plays that were called back by penalty. I don't look at Roma Dunze and think that he's just done for the year. With DK Metcalf, he's also trending down, but if you've been watching this show, it shouldn't be a surprise to you. We have said all along that the bulk of his production comes from touchdowns. If the touchdowns stop, we're going to be in trouble with DK Metcalf. Well, he has only 1 touchdown over the last 3 games played and hasn't had over 5 catches in a game this season. Then we get to Nico Collins here to round out the hot section. We need him healthy. We need CJ Stroud healthy. We'll probably be in a good place. The problem is neither one of them fully healthy as of right now. All right, now we move down to that midsection for the wide receiver category. The first one here is Courtland Sutton, and I gotta say he's trending down. Really similar to DK Metcalf. When the touchdowns slow down for Sutton, so does the production, and he's got only 1 touchdown over his last 5 games played and only 12 total receptions over the last 4 games played. With guys like Troy Franklin out there getting a boost in targets, it is hurting Courtland Sutton. Then we got Ladd McConkey, Devontae Smith, Romeo Doubs, Deebo Samuel. Hopefully he can get going with Marcus Mariota. It's not looking great as of right now. Really fits that 50-50 boomer bust type play. Same with Zay Flowers. Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm saying he's trending up because look at that. Look what happens when you throw the ball consistently to Marvin Harrison Jr. Good things just end up happening, and I'm hoping they can build off that momentum of the Dallas game and keep him involved. Then we get Christian Watson. Obviously, he's only been back here for a short amount of time, but he has to be trending up. Why? Because Matthew Golden and Tucker Kraft are hurt, so somebody else is going to have to catch footballs for the Green Bay Packers. The biggest issue with Christian Watson is health, and is he going to stay healthy? That is very debatable. Now, after him, we got Torrey Horton. Really surprised to see him with a 50% hit rate. You really don't hear much about Torrey Horton. We know he exploded in week 9. Does that continue? I think it depends on the health of Cooper Kupp. Then T. Higgins, he is flying up this list. He was almost droppable a month ago in fantasy football. Then when Joe Flacco happened, Higgins now is all the way up to the wide receiver 11 on the season and has 3 straight games with double-digit fantasy points. Then we get down to Keenan Allen, Chris Olave, Ted McMillan, Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte be rocking everywhere. And they really are the epitome of this midsection, right? They're going to have some good games. They're not going to be overly consistent. They can help you maybe in a pinch or a bye week or an injury fill-in, but not somebody we can overly rely upon. Which means now we go down to the cold section, and there are a ton of cold wide receivers. At the top of this list, though, is Drake London, and he is definitely trending up. Having him and Penix healthy is all we really need here. Drake London has scored 26+ fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 games he's played. He's all the way up to wide receiver 8 on the season, and when he's healthy and Penix is healthy, he puts up monster numbers. A.J. Brown down here, along with Jameson Williams, Tez Johnson, could heat up a little bit if they are reliant on him majority of the second half of the season. Khalil Shakir is going to have some big games time and again. Same with Troy Franklin. Josh Downs is trending up in my opinion. He's slowly getting more and more consistent looks in this Indianapolis offense. He now has touchdowns in 3 straight games, but more importantly, he had 7+ targets now in 3 of his last 4. Then we get down to Wan'Dale Robinson, Rashid Shaheed, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Calvin Austin, Alec Pierce will get the occasional big play, Juwan Jennings, Cooper Kupp, Xavier Leggett had his short 15 minutes of fame this season, then Trey Tucker, DJ Moore, slightly trending up right now in my opinion. He's had at least 75 yards in back-to-back games, and we're finally starting to see him be a little bit more than just a check-down wide receiver. My biggest question is why the sudden change? And I feel like it's because of a lot of opposing defenses are putting more attention on Rome Odunze. Now, while that sucks for Rome owners, that could be the reason we're seeing a little bit more DJ Moore. There really is a little bit of positivity surrounding DJ Moore. Brian Thomas Jr., he hasn't done much all year. He can't get healthy either. Kendrick Bourne, his claim to fame is pretty much over at this point. Parker Washington, I do think he is trending up with Travis Hunter on the IR, Brian Thomas Jr. banged up. Someone else is going to have to catch the football in Jacksonville. We also know Diami Brown just suffered a concussion, and Parker Washington has 19 targets over his last 2 games played. At the bottom of the list, though, a lot of guys you would kind of expect, right? Alec Eomanor, Demario Douglas, Chimere Dike, Xavier Worthy, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, Matthew Golden, and Rashad Bateman. Which means all we have left is the tight end position. Now, for a tight end to be considered a hit or a miss, 8 points is the cutoff. If we made it any higher, everyone would be cold pretty much. Now, at the top of the list, it's no surprise we got Trey McBride averaging 13 fantasy points per game with an 88% hit rate. Dallas Goedert up here with a 12.3 fantasy point per game average, over 70% hit rate, along with Dalton Kincaid. Then we get to Jake Ferguson. You have to think he's trending down slightly right now. With the return of CeeDee Lamb, we knew he was going to see less volume. I don't think he fades into oblivion, but he more than likely loses a lot of that high-end consistency. Tyler Warren up here, Travis Kelce right there at 66% hit rate, followed by AJ Barner and Oronde Gadsden. A lot of people want Oronde Gadsden to be a top 5 guy every week, but with all the weapons in LA, it's probably just not going to happen consistently. Which then takes us down to this midsection here. Juwan Johnson maybe gets a few extra looks with Tyler Shuck. Sam Laporta, I'm going to say he's trending up, but trusting Sam Laporta is like trusting a post-taco truck fart. I mean, you think you're good, but you just really never know. Laporta does have touchdowns, though, in 3 of his last 4 games, so hopefully he continues to move up this list. Then we get guys like Kyle Pitts, George Kittle. You would think that George Kittle would trend up second half of the season, been a little bit more boom or bust as of late. Harold Fannin could see decent volume, maybe not a whole lot of yardage, though. And then we get down to Zach Ertz, who I think is trending down, because Zach Ertz with Marcus Mariota is a lot less consistent than Zach Ertz with Jaden Daniels. And then lastly, right here in the midsection, is Theo Johnson. So let's get down to the cold section. First here is Brock Bowers. He's averaging 14.3 fantasy points per game, but only a 40% hit rate. But have no fear, Brock is back, Brock is healthy, and now he is all of a sudden the tight end 10 overall on the season. Even though he hadn't played a game since week 4, he is going to fly up this list. Now, after him is Dalton Schultz. He's trending up in my opinion as well. 21 targets over the last 3 weeks, and now he's scored at least 8 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games played. With CJ Stroud or Davis Mills, it doesn't matter. They both look his way consistently. Then Noah Fant, Mason Taylor, would love for him to be a thing second half of the season, but we really don't know about the health of Garrett Wilson going forward. If Wilson is healthy, he'll get the majority of the targets. Hunter Henry, he's trending down. With the way that Drake May spreads the ball around, we haven't had a Hunter Henry sighting since week 4. Then we get some other guys who've been down here majority of the season. David Njoku, Tyler Higbee could get a slight bump if Puka is limited in any way going forward. Mark Andrews down here, we know he's touchdown boomer bust. Same thing for Pat Freiermuth. TJ Hawkinson not getting enough volume. Jonnu Smith. Cade Otton could be trending up second half of the season. There are still a lot of injuries to the Tampa Bay pass catchers. They're going to need Cade Otton to catch some footballs down the stretch to keep them in the playoff hunt. Then we got Colston Loveland. If they're banged up in Chicago, he'll fly up this list. If they get fully healthy, though, he's probably going to go back to what he was the first 8 weeks of the season. And then lastly, Evan Ingram can't get anything going in Denver. They're just spreading the ball around way too much for him to do anything consistently. So there you have all your trends through 9 weeks of the season. And in a season that is crazy as this one, we really have to rely on consistency as much as possible. Are a lot of these guys going to have a bad game every once in a while? For sure. But we really need to focus on starting the most consistent guys with the highest floor each and every week. Because the days of having locked in studs that you just set it and forget it, they're probably over.